Can we start?
Sure.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
Yeah. So we are going to discuss about the first theory from Marx, that is historical materialism. Okay. So historical materialism. Now, what we have already done with Marx, I hope all of you know that, and I've told you when we discussed about Marx' general idea about society and individual. That's what we have discussed in the previous session. Marx' idea about society and Marx' idea about individual. So I've already told you in that discussion, this is what you're... Array, somebody's mic is on. Please turn off your mics. Okay. So we have already discussed about Marx's idea about individual and society. So I've told you this is going to be your introduction in all the theories of Marx, because this is repeatedly coming in all the theories. So what is his conception about society? What is his conception about individual? So here we are actually talking about historical materialism. Next theory that we are going to talk about is class struggle, and then we will be talking about alienation. So in all these theories, we will be in fact talking about the society and individual only. And we will take it further when it comes to that theory. Okay, so what we know about society, what we have discussed is society, Marxian idea of society is basically based on production. So everything is revolving around production. And then production we have understood in terms of forces of production and relations of production. Okay, so we have discussed about forces of production and relations of production. And this together is what we have discussed about economic infrastructure. And then we have also talked about superstructure. FOP and ROP alone will not be enough for undertaking production if production acquires a complex form. And economic infrastructure and superstructure together is what the social formation or society according to Marx. So that is what we have done so far, and we have seen that relation between economic infrastructure and superstructure. Economic infrastructure shapes the superstructure, which in turn will help in the functioning of economic infrastructure. So what all elements will come in economic infrastructure? All the elements which you can see like religion, family, culture, education, everything will come under social superstructure. So it is the economic infrastructure which shapes the superstructure, which in turn will help in the functioning of the economic infrastructure. Now when we discussed about the idea of individual, he discussed about being and social being. Okay, so these are the things that we are going to repeatedly use when it comes to different theories, especially the concept of being and social being we'll discuss when it comes to alienation, the theory of alienation, and this we are going to discuss in the first two theories. Okay, so let's move towards the first theory, that is historical materialism. Okay, so this theory of historical materialism can be understood in two parts. So the first part is his idea about society and change. So this is the first part of this theory, historical materialism. And do you know this? His idea about society and change, not change. So his idea about society and individual. So basically his theory of historical materialism means its idea about society and change. So this is the theory of historical materialism. Now the first part is idea about society and individual. Do you know this part? Do you know this?
Yes, sir.
So this is what we have already done, right? His idea about society and individual is what we have already done and what we have discussed here. So when we talk about his idea about society and individual, here it is nothing but, production. It is the FOP, ROP, the economic infrastructure, okay, and the social superstructure, and all these things are what we need to write under this. So you need to elaborate it. So Neeraj, your mic is on. Okay. So, idea about society and individual. So this is the first part. So here there is no separate introduction. This itself is a part of the theory. Second part is the change. Okay. So the social change. So he understood the change in society in terms of existing societies. He talked about the existing societies and also futuristic societies. Okay, so we will see existing societies, and existing societies Marx conceptualized in 4 ways, or he identified 4 different types. First is primitive communism. Primitive communism, I'll explain this, and then he is talking about ancient mode of production. I've told you yesterday, mode of production means it is nothing but the society, or it is the social formation, right? So this is the ancient society, and then feudal MOP, and then capitalist MOP. So primitive communism, ancient mode of production, feudal mode of production, capitalist mode of production. So these are the existing societies. Futuristic societies Marx conceptualized in terms of socialist mode of production and then communism. So these are the 6 different mode of production that Marx defined. So if you see in your syllabus, there is a word mode of production. So if that is the case, you need to write this part. This is a theory of mode of production, different modes of production. If the question is about historical materialism, the scope is broader. You need to write this 2 parts. So historical materialism is all about his idea about society and change. So his idea about society is what we have done before, and change is what we are going to do now. If the question is about mode of production, focus more on this part. If it is historical materialism, both has to be given equal weightage. So I hope you understood what we are actually going to do. So he used a concept of dialectical materialism to propose his theory of historical materialism. So dialectical materialism means, this was actually a prelims question in 2011. If you see the GS paper 2011, you will see Marxian theories are based on which among the following assumption. It is dialectical materialism. GS paper they have asked this. Okay. So here dialectical materialism means, dialectics means the contradictions. Like you can see, let's say this is a society. Okay. So here there exist some contradictions. So what will happen is there will be a change to new society. Okay. So there are contradictions. So contradiction lead to change. Here also contradiction that lead to change. Here also contradiction that lead to change. Okay, now there was a thinker, George Hegel. Okay, so as per Hegelian speculative philosophy, what he is saying is, okay, there are dialectics in terms of contradictions, like you can see here, but at that time when the contradictions will be there, there will be some ideas. So these ideas will result into change. So Hegel is talking about ideas. For example, when we talk about this situation, the corona, okay, so this is actually, what is the situation? What the situation is the contradictions in the present society, right? So what happened? New ideas. So now in this society, you cannot go to the college or you cannot go to the actual coaching institute. The physical setup is not possible. Okay, so new ideas came, like this Zoom classes and everything. So that lead to social change. Then later here also some contradictions can come. Yeah. Here also contradictions can come that lead to another system. So whenever contradictions is there, that is what, the contradictions is there. So ideas will come and that lead to social change. That is dialectical idealism. Dialectics are present in terms of contradictions, but ideas will help to overcome the contradiction. That is dialectical idealism. But what Marx said is, you can see Marx talking about economic infrastructure, which comprise of ROP and FOP, and then there is a social superstructure where education, family, religion, culture, values, etc. will come. So what Marx says is, economic infrastructure shapes superstructure, which in turn help in the functioning. This is what we have understood yesterday. So what Marx says is, the ideas comes where? Is it part of economic infrastructure or superstructure? Can you tell me?
Superstructure.
It is part of superstructure, right? The values, the education, the everything. The ideas are part of superstructure. So who's shaping the idea? It is the economic infrastructure. So what Marx says is, it is not dialectical idealism. It is not the ideas which result into change. It is the material conditions. So what he did is, he replaced the concept of dialectical idealism with dialectical materialism. What Hegel said is, there will be contradiction. Marx also saying the same, there will be contradiction. But what Hegel saying is, when contradiction is there, there will be ideas, and that is what dialectical idealism, that will lead to social change. What Marx says is the ideas are generated by the economic infrastructure only, because ideas are part of superstructure. So it is effectively not ideas, it is a change in material condition, and it is because of this material condition only these ideas are developed, right? It is because of the capitalist system only, when the corona is there, the people are devising these ideas. Otherwise, what is the point in delivering the lecture, and not only in case of me. So the system automatically identifying some, the ideas are because of what? The ideas are because of the system. It is because of the economic infrastructure according to Marx. So let me complete it.
Yes.
Huh? Huh? Hello?
Yes, sir.
Tell me.
Carry on, carry on. I asked it.
Okay. So what I'm...
Sir,
Okay, so what the Hegel's concept is dialectical idealism. Marx replaced that with dialectical materialism. I hope you understood the reason why Marx replaced it. For Marx, ideas are part of superstructure. So you should not be considering ideas, because ideas are shaped by the economic infrastructure. For example, when we talk about the Zoom classes, we are talking about what? Ideas developed, right? So that is Hegel's concept. It is dialectical idealism. Yes, obviously it is idea. The Zoom classes, this Apple Pen, everything is idea. But what Marx says is, wait Sunil, I'm coming. So what Marx says is, these ideas are the reflection of the economic infrastructure. Because of this setup only, if it was in feudal mode of production, or if it was in ancient mode of production, there is no need to have the Zoom classes or anything. So the ideas are actually result of the change in material condition according to Marx. So he replaced the dialectical idealism with dialectical materialism. It is a change in material condition that is responsible for social change. Okay? Yeah, tell me Sunil.
no, sir, that was a mistake, sir.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah, any doubts so far? Pavani, is that clear?
Yes, sir, clear, sir.
Yes.
Sir, please.
Okay, Himanshu, are you able to listen to what all I am saying? Because I am not able to listen to you. What you are saying,
Yes,
I
I hear you loud and clear.
am not able to listen to anything what you are saying. Can you message then?
I think Marshall's net connection is not good. So I think we should focus.
So are we okay? Our connection, are you able to hear me properly? Everybody?
Yes. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. It's fine.
Okay. Yeah, Himanshu, you are not audible. No way. Okay. Then you can type it. I will see. So this much is okay for all of you. What do you mean by dialectical materialism?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So now we will move on to the theory, actual theory. So this concept is actually applied. So what you need to know is there will be contradictions. You can see here, this is one society. So contradictions, there will be a change because of change in material condition. Then again, there will be a change if contradictions come here. Then again, contradiction lead to social change. That is how you can see all these different societies. And because of contradictions, in future also, different modes will be there. Yeah, 15 minutes class if you missed. Actually, there is no point in listening. You will not understand. Yeah, Asif, tell me.
Yes, what is the actual meaning of contradiction in terms of historical materialism of Marx?
Pardon? Come again.
I'm asking, what is the actual meaning of contradiction in terms of Marx historical materialism?
No, contradictions, I have told you already, that is antagonist relation. The antagonist, any society if you see, it is antagonist relation. Not only capitalist society, in primitive, after primitive communism, in ancient mode, in feudal mode, that I'm going to discuss only. What is this contradictions?
Okay, sir.
Yeah. So we will start with the discussion, the different mode of productions. Okay. So
Yes, sir.
different mode of production. The first one is actually the primitive communism. So first one, primitive communism. So actually in the society, a very less population. So it is very easy to understand. It is not a very complex part. This is very easy. It is evolutionary part of society. So how society evolved according to Marx. So you can also say here he is actually using this perspective, evolutionary perspective. Okay, so evolutionary perspective drawn from Darwin's theory of biological evolution. So primitive communism, Marx conceptualized as like this: everybody is equal, population is very less, food is abundant in nature, there is no competition, there is no private property, egalitarian society. Okay, so there is no such concept of any private property or superiority, inferiority. Everybody is equal. Primitive communism. Now with time, what will happen? The population will increase. When the population increase, there is a scarcity for food. So when there is a scarcity for food, now some people who have certain skills or some people who develop certain tools and techniques to harness food, they control the surplus food. It is not the case that everybody can have access to food now when competition is there. Okay, so some people who have physical strength, or some people who have some tools and techniques, or some people who can get more food, they have the surplus food, and others are dependent on them. So now new relations emerged, that is masters and slave relation. Okay, so that society is what Marx calls as ancient mode of production. So here, so first society, there is no class, no groups, okay, no differentiation, everybody is equal. So ancient mode of production, there are two classes, masters and slaves. So slaves are completely dependent on masters in terms of food and every other requirements. Okay, so masters are the owners of the slaves, masters are the owners of the tools and techniques. So slaves are completely dependent on the masters for food and every other cases. Now with time, what will happen is settled agriculture emerged, because again food scarcity is there. So settled agriculture emerged over a period of time. So the slaves will be pressurized to cultivate in the field, in the land, in the agricultural land, without any incentive. So they are already exploited, they have to work more and more. Okay, they are actually a means to an end. So to get the happiness for masters, they are actually using the slaves. So masters won't do anything, the slaves are exploited by the masters, and then when settled agriculture emerged, the slaves are pressurized to produce more and more within the settled agriculture. So when the exploitation reaches at its peak, that is what Marx says, that the mature condition exists. Okay, when the mature condition exists, the slaves revolt. Okay, slaves revolt, and they will capture all the means of production. Means of production means tools, techniques, etc. And they also know the way the production has to be undertaken. And they will enter into a new mode of production that is related to feudal mode of production. Okay, so that is related to agriculture. So here slaves, the erstwhile slaves, are now going to undertake production. They captured everything. Okay, but still they are dependent on the masters in terms of land and protection, because they did not have ownership of land. Okay, so they may be able to cultivate and they may be able to produce, but ultimately whatever they produce, they need a place to save that. So for protection and to cultivate, they need land also. For that, they are dependent on actually this section. So the former masters will become feudal lords and the slaves become the serfs. Okay, so these are the people. Serfs will undertake cultivation, but still they are dependent on lords in terms of land and protection. So the lords offer the land and protection to the serfs, and in return they will charge some commission in terms of rent. Okay, so it may be like 1/3, and then it will be increased to 1/2, then it will be increased to 2/3. Like that, the rent keep on increasing. So increase in rent is what you can see as exploitation here, and when this exploitation reaches at its peak, what will happen? The serfs will revolt. Okay, now during this time, industries emerged, like what you can see in case of settled agriculture emerged here. So they captured everything and they went on to settled agriculture. Now industries emerged, so serfs started thinking that what is the point in, working in the land all the time, tied to the land. Now there is an industrial setup, so you can go as worker anytime if you want to, you can go anytime if you want to, you can work, you can get the salary, you can get the wages. If you don't want to, you don't want to work. So when the mature condition exists, that means when the exploitation reaches at its peak, there will be a revolt between lords and serfs, and this will end in, and the workers, the serfs start moving towards factories. Okay, so actually the serfs become workers and the lords becomes the capitalist. Now one thing, why this masters becoming lords and the lords becoming capitalist, slaves becoming serfs and serfs becoming workers, this I will explain in detail in the next theory, class and class struggle. This process, how these people are becoming lords and these people only becoming capitalist. Why not serfs are becoming capitalist? The reason I will explain in the theory of class struggle. But here you just understand, in feudal mode of production, the erstwhile masters become lords, erstwhile slaves become serfs. In capitalism, erstwhile lords becomes capitalist and erstwhile serfs become the workers. Okay, and then in capitalist society, when the exploitation reaches at its peak, that means the workers are pressurized to work more and more in inhuman working condition with less salaries, more working hours, and this exploitation reaches at its peak, the workers will revolt with appropriate system of ideology, proper leadership, proper organization, and they will capture everything, and that lead to the workers' control. So the revolution, the workers' revolution, and that will lead to a socialist society. So primitive communism, ancient mode of production, feudal mode of production, and then capital. This is what Marx says as capitalist mode of production, the current one. Okay, and then when the worker revolt in capitalist mode of production, when the mature condition exists, that lead to socialist mode of production, and socialist mode of production is actually an intermediate stage. Okay, it is a transitional stage which will eventually end in communism. So now from capitalism there will be socialism, and that will eventually end in communism. So this will be similar to the primitive communism. Okay, where everybody will be equal, everybody will be contributing as per their capacity, and everybody will be distributed as per their needs. The only difference will be in terms of advancements in technology, advancements in tools and techniques, etc. Otherwise, everybody will be equal, purely egalitarian society, classless society, caste or the stateless society. There won't be any power, there won't be any class, everybody equal. And there is a very famous statement which is actually given by Marx: communism deprives no man of the power to appropriate the products of nature. I repeat, communism deprives no man of the power to appropriate the product of nature. So there is no restriction from using the products of nature. All what it does is to deprive you, okay, in terms of subjugation of others, in terms of such appropriation. That means you cannot use the labor of others in terms of such appropriation. You can appropriate the property, anything from nature, whatever is available in nature, you can go and pick it. You yourself can go and pick it. If you want to catch fish, you can go and catch fish. Whatever you want from nature, you can get it. But you cannot use the labor of others in terms of such appropriation. That means you cannot pay and you cannot get it done with someone else. So that's what communism, everybody will be equal. It's a classless society, it's a stateless society, but it is a utopian concept. It is never going to come into existence. So this is what we have discussed. So first, primitive communism, then ancient mode of production, then feudal mode of production, then capitalist mode of production, and then socialist mode of production, and that lead to communist mode of production, which will be similar to this. Okay, so you can see here primitive communism, everybody was equal, food is abundant in nature. Later when competition comes, those people who carry the surplus food, they become masters and others are dependent on them. So master-slave relation, ancient mode of production. When settled agriculture emerges, then when the slaves revolt within ancient mode of production and take control over the settled agriculture, then feudal mode of production based on lords and serfs. And when the industry is coming, the serfs revolt against the lords and will enter into the capitalist mode of production, which is based on capitalist and worker. So broadly, if you see these three societies, there are two class, haves and have-nots. Socialist mode of production, the transitional stage, which will eventually end in communism, where there is no class. In socialism, there will be only one class, that is the workers' class. In communism, there is no class, which is similar to primitive communism, there is no class. Okay, so primitive communism, no class. Here there are two classes, masters and slaves. Feudal mode of production, two classes, lords and serfs. Capitalist mode of production, two classes, that is a capitalist and the worker. Socialist mode of production, one class, that is a worker. Communist mode of production, communism, there is no class. So communism deprives no man of the power to appropriate the product of nature. All what it does is to deprive him of the power of subjugation of others' labor in terms of such appropriation. So,
Sir,
yes.
so by this socialist and communist mode of production formed after capitalism, and by not ancient mode of production and feudal mode of production.
Because what Marx says is, here from ancient mode of production to feudal mode of production, there was a better alternative. From feudal to capitalism also, they think it is a better alternative. It is industrial society, whenever you want you can go and work. But practically that is not possible. Once you come to capitalist mode of production, then you will realize that you may think that, okay, it is true that if you need to go for work, you can go for work, you will get salary and you can live. But is that the practical case? No. If you want to survive, you need to work. So work became necessary for the survival. It's not a matter of choice. Now from capitalism, there is no new alternate production. So there will be, now this, the question that you asked is better understood in the next theory when we discussed about the process of class struggle. There is a process, there is a, it actually happens in a specific, there is a specific mechanism that has to be discussed in the next theory, that is class and class struggle. So you will understand why not in between, why here.
Okay, sir.
Okay.
Yes, sir. The workers in the ancient mode of production, feudal.
No. There is no worker here. Don't use the term.
Sorry. No workers.
Have-nots.
The have-nots in the ancient mode of production, feudal mode of production. They also revolted there. Then why don't they distribute the resources among others and make the egalitarian society?
No, actually, again, I have to discuss that in the next session, because we discussed that they united. What they are expecting us, when they enter into feudal mode of production, they were expecting that they have captured everything, they have the control over means of production, that means tools, and they know how to produce and everything. So they are thinking that they are going to be superior, but ultimately they are dependent on the landlords, right? These people in terms of land.
Yes,
So here we will discuss about a concept, true consciousness, false consciousness. With that only it will be complete. That has to be done in the next lecture. So here it is actually based on false consciousness. Here also it is based on false consciousness. But capitalism to socialism, this is based on true consciousness. That's why now you are able to change your situation. What is this true consciousness, false consciousness? That has to be done separately in the next theory. At this point, historical materialism, you just understand the society and individual and the evolutionary model. This is the evolutionary model given by Marx. How this evolution happening, the mechanism of class struggle, the reasons for class struggle, the types of class polarization, all these concepts has to be discussed in the next session in detail. So coupled with the next session only, this discussion will be complete. The understanding will be complete after the next session, but for writing the answer, this is what you need to focus.
sure, sir.
Yeah. Tell me.
Sir, my question was that Hegel says that idea changes material. That means dialectic idealism.
Yes.
Because it is because of the idea that material is being developed. But Marx says it is because of the material that influences the ideas.
Yes.
I mean, material give rise to ideas.
Yes.
Then you gave an example about this corona, that because of the mobile and because of this infrastructure, we are able to conduct the classes. That has changed the mode of production.
Yes.
That material gave rise to idea, but there was an idea that people wanted to talk to each because of which phone got developed. So how will we justify when will we ask that it is the dialectic materialism, or if there is a theory or there is a question given on dialectic materialism and dialectic idealism? How will we differentiate between each other, and how will we write that answer?
See, you are saying there is an idea of talking among each other, and that's the reason why phone got developed. Okay, see, everything.
Yes.
Yeah, you are saying that phone, you want to talk among each other, that has been materialized by the phone companies and they have developed the phone. Okay,
yes.
So they understood that there is a need in the system, and what is the material condition, that there is a change in material condition, so they identified a solution to change that requirement, and that is because of the material condition. If it is not a capitalist society, there is no need to develop the phone, because somebody who developed the phone, they realized that in this society there is a potential if you develop a phone. So the development of phone is actually not because of the interest in talking or all these things. It is because of the capitalist system, that in this system, if you develop a phone, there will be a possibility.
Correct, sir. There was an idea which gave rise to change in material condition, that we have phones with us.
No. It is a material condition. Because of that only phones and all everything developed. It is not the ideas. Why this idea come? The phone come through idea. Why this idea came? It is because of the material condition. Because in this capitalist society, if you develop a phone, people want to talk among each other, so it will be very easy to sell the phone.
Okay.
Yeah, it is the condition, it is a situation. Otherwise, no, in other societies it is not possible, it is not required. What is the point in spending all this effort and time and developing all these things? It is because of the material condition only you are even spend time to develop something. The idea also coming because of that.
Correct.
Yeah.
Thank you, sir.
Yeah. No, see, any way you can interpret, there is no problem. This is how Marx interpret. I'm just sticking to the shoes of Marx, and I'm telling this would have been the understanding of Marx. So you can say the other way around also. In the modern society where superstructure is so much important than the economic infrastructure, even the ideas of single individual can transform the society. For example, Facebook, Twitter and all these things. But still Marx will say why Facebook and all this came? Because people want to talk among each other, people want to interact, so that has been materialized. That's why Marx will tell. So both are considered correct. So Marxist will go with this. Even the neo-Marxist actually modified some of the assumptions of Marx. The neo-Marxist and the critical school, the Frankfurt school, which include Adorno, Habermas, etc. I'll discuss about this when we discuss about the relevance of Marx. So actually the neo-Marxist modified some of the concept of Marx, and they also acknowledged the role of superstructure in social change. Yeah.
Sir?
Yeah.
In communism, there will be egalitarian society. Then what will be the true motivation for them so that they can work hard to achieve something?
No, in communism it is a utopian concept. What Marx says is everybody will contribute as per there may not be any motivation. That is why it is utopian society, that society cannot survive. If everybody is left out to contribute as per their capacity and everybody is distributed as per their needs, then nobody will work also. So it is a utopian concept. We don't want to go beyond that. It is a utopian concept. Everybody criticize that. It will never come into existence.
Okay.
The society cannot function. Right?
Okay, sir.
So, transformation from communist to socialistic society, is it driven by technological advancement?
Communist to socialist? No, it is socialist to communism.
Yes, sir. Is it driven by technological advancement?
No, it is actually, you started from primitive communism. Ultimately, you have to reach at the same level. So, socialism is actually a transitional phase. That's it. You don't want to write too much about socialism. So, here there will be only one class from capital. Ultimately, capitalism to communism. This should be the phase. So, you have to reach here. So, in that context, this is the route in which you are going. So, this is a transitional phase. So from here there is advancements, quantitative changes, qualitative changes, and all we don't want to talk here. So this is a transitional phase. Here there is no revolt or revolution or exploitation. So unlike what we have discussed here, we don't discuss too much in socialist mode of production. We will simply say socialist mode of production is a transitional phase which will eventually culminate into communism, where everybody will be equal and everybody will be contributing as per their capacity and everybody will be redistributed as per their needs. Socialism is basically a transitional phase. And continuous technological advancements are happening right from ancient mode of production. So technological advancements is happening anyway from today to tomorrow. That advancement is there. So society is completely based on continuous technological advancements. The way man produces things keep on changing every day. The means of production, the tools, techniques keep on changing every day. So that is inherently there in all Marxian assumption, understanding.
Okay.
Yeah. So this is a very simple theory, don't make it complex, and when we discuss about class struggle, you will understand the procedure, how this may be a technical part. This I will explain with diagrams later in the tomorrow session, how the masters are becoming lords and how the lords are becoming capitalist, why not the serfs are becoming capitalist. This question I will address tomorrow. Yeah, tell me. Ask if you want to say something. As if you are asking something before.
Just give me some time. I will ask that question.
Yeah. Anything else? We're done with the theory. It's a very simple theory. Nothing more to discuss here. Just understand the evolutionary model. So if you're done with this, if you have no problem, then we can move to the PDF.
My question is this: you said that economic infrastructure and the social superstructure both combinedly, we can say that is mode of production. Okay, and some aspects of religion ideas comes under social superstructure.
Yeah.
But there are four types of existing study mode of production, like primitive, ancient, feudal. In the primitive mode of production, there is no concept of religion, there is no concept of ideas. Okay, only the struggle due to contradictions. And why we are saying that there is a part of there is a contribution of social superstructure in the mode of production.
No, what I am saying is these superstructural elements are required only when production acquires complex form. In the initial stage, that is not necessary. Only when if you read that line which we have discussed yesterday, only when the production reaches at its complex form, to undertake further production, you need the help of superstructure. And if you are saying society is composed of economic infrastructure and superstructure, then you will say in ancient mode of production, there is a limited concept of superstructure, but you cannot conclusively say superstructure is not there. Even the ideas, values, between people interaction, all these are part of superstructure. Everything is part of superstructure. The way you interact is also part of superstructure. The values, norms are part of superstructure. So there is no society which is based on superstructure. There is no society.
Okay, so can be that advancement in the mode of production, like from primitive to capital, the contribution of social superstructure has been increased.
Yes, right? Increased, because if you need to undertake more production, you need more help from the superstructural elements. So family came, a concept of family came along with private property. Similarly, like religion, similarly like education. So all these things are coming over a period of time and to satisfy certain requirements. Okay. So can you see this?
Yes, sir.
So these are few questions like directly theory of historical materialism. Are you in a position to answer this? Similarly, critically examine Marx theory of historical materialism. This critical analysis we will discuss. So first what we will do is, we have done with the introductory part. We will do the theory now, and critical analysis together we will discuss separately towards the end of Marx. So theory, we are doing all the three theories. Alienation we will do, class struggle we will do, historical materialism we are done today. After doing all these three theories, we will discuss critical analysis separately. So then you will be in a position to write this particular answer. Now this, as if your mic is on. Discuss Marx's views about society and what according to Marx is the cause of change in society. So here Marx's view about society means there's the first part, then change means second part, so this is effectively historical materialism only. Then discuss Marx's theory of mode of production. Mode of production means the changes, different societies, and highlight the significant features of forces and relations of production. Marx's theory of society, these two are actually same. So any doubt in any of the questions here? The same things only we have discussed. Okay, now Marx's theory of historical materialism deals with his general idea about society and change. Okay, so this part he is talking about society, and second part change. Marx never used the term historical materialism. Instead, he frequently used materialistic conception of history for explaining his views. His ideas about society are contained in all his texts, but the purest exposition of his theory is found in the Contribution to the Critique of Political Economy, 1859. His theory is called historical because society is understood in terms of a process of evolution from one stage to another through history. And you have seen what is that evolution. It is called materialistic because Marx understands history, the society as well as its change in terms of changing material conditions. From primitive to ancient, there is a change in material condition, right? Then ancient to feudal, feudal to capitalism. These are understood in terms of material condition. That's what dialectical idealism, that is what dialectical materialism. The material condition relate to the production process that involves FOP and ROP, forces of production and relations of production. Thus, Marx's theory of historical materialism aims at understanding society as well as evolutionary process of change in terms of material conditions or production process. Marx has drawn considerably from Hegel's dialectical logic for explaining the process of change. Similarly, Marx's emphasis on materialism is a modified form of Feuerbach's anthropological naturalism. According to Marx, the material forces only constrain the choices available to the individual, and the individual can only decide within the constraints. Similarly, Marx overturns Hegel's concept of dialectical idealism. This is what you need to write, okay, basically. Hegel's concept of dialectical idealism to propose his own concept of dialectical materialism. Marx's theory of historical materialism contains two parts, the conception of society and the evolutionary model.
Sir, can you hear me, sir?
Yeah, tell me.
Yeah, this concept is still not clear to me that what were the contradictions due to which, okay, the modes of production got the change in a period of time from primitive to capitalist society. What were the contradictions in each type of mode of production, like in the primitive, the feudal, and the ancient and the capital?
In ancient mode of production, the contradictions are like the slaves are exploited by the masters. So that exploitation, when it reaches at its peak, they decided to change the mode of production and to enter into a mode of production which is based on settled agriculture, which they thought will be under their control. Then even
generally speaking, this particular contradiction exists in all types of mode of production, like in ancient.
Yes.
So can I say that exploitation of the exploitation of in the slaves and the serfs and the workers is the only contradiction due to which different kind of mode of production got changed?
Yeah, mainly that is a reason. The main reason is actually the interest are contradictory and the exploitation. And this process is also aided by some other factors. The entire process is aided and supported by some other factors also, but the main reason is their interests are contradictory and their exploitation. Because Marx states directly like this: when the exploitation reaches at its peak and when the mature condition exists. These are two key words. Exploitation has to reach at its peak, and that means the mature condition exists, they revolt. In ancient, in feudal, in capitalism. Everywhere, these three lines you will see. Okay?
So the major contribution was the exploitation of the
haves by the have-nots by the haves. Exploitation of the have-nots by the haves in general.
In general.
Yes.
Okay. Okay. Sir.
Okay, so his theory of historical materialism, you can see two parts. First is conception of society, right? And second is evolutionary model. So in conception of society, you will be writing the same, which you know already. There is no need to repeat it. You can talk about idea of production, okay, force of production, relation of production, economic infrastructure, superstructure, and the system view. You can draw that diagram which we have discussed, okay? So FOP, ROP, and then superstructure. This diagram you can draw. And existing society. So this is the evolutionary model. Second part, that is a social change. Okay, existing societies, futuristic societies, primitive communism, ancient mode of production, feudal mode of production, capitalist mode of production, socialism, communism. So Marx's historical conception of society is not only based on explaining the changes in the existing society, but also aims at developing a futuristic mode of change, because history understood by Marx in terms of 4 stages and future is conceptualized in terms of 2 stages. So here comes the evolutionary model. Marx's evolutionary model starts from a very primitive society where the needs are confined to the basic needs of survival. Food is abundant in nature and the tools required to harness food are very simple. There is no concept of ownership in the production, and thus Marx terms this stage as primitive communism. So there is no concept of private property, there is no concept of ownership, there is a complete egalitarian society. Okay, population is very less. Now with time population increases, demand for more food results in its scarcity. To meet this demand, new tools are devised which are owned by few. The owner of these tools also control the surplus food and others are dependent upon them. So those who control the surplus food, they became masters. Those who are dependent, they became slaves. With this, a new mode of production, ancient mode of production based on master-slave relationship comes into existence. Further, as the population increases, slaves are pressurized to produce more and more food. This results in ever-increasing exploitation of the slaves. Masters become more powerful and slaves become more powerless. Now, within the ancient society, a new forces of production relating to settled agriculture emerged, and slaves were compelled to work on land without any incentives. When mature condition exists, slaves revolt and takes control of these new forces of production. Thus, the struggle between masters and slaves culminate into a revolt leading to initiation of new mode of production, which Marx terms as feudal mode of production. Any doubt here? Okay, the erstwhile slaves become serfs who undertake cultivation, and the former masters continue to dominate and they became feudal lords. Serfs exist as independent section of population within the society but are still dependent upon the feudal lords for land and protection. Serfs pay a part of their produce in the form of taxes. With time, the demand for increasing high tax results in exploitation of the serfs and the consequent struggle between the two. Within the society, new forces of production relating to a factory system emerge, which are based on wage system. When the mature condition exists, the serfs revolt and move towards factories for work. So this is a very key word. Here also you can see mature condition exists. Here also. So everywhere when the revolution is there, the mature condition has to present. With this, a new mode of production termed by Marx as, this is Marx, termed by Marx as capitalist mode of production based on capitalist-worker relationship emerged. The capitalists were the erstwhile feudal lords and the workers are the erstwhile serfs. Okay. So workers work in factories for wages. They are free to work. Workers in this system are exploited in terms of low salaries and poor and inhuman working and living conditions. This initiates a struggle between the capitalists and workers as their interests are contradictory. Although workers are free to sell their labor, they are still dependent upon the capitalist for their survival, as the things they need must be purchased from the market for money. When the exploitation of this logic reaches at its peak, and that means when the mature condition exists, the workers revolt. Now the workers control all resources with abolition of private property. There will be a rule of workers and resources will be distributed as per one's own needs. This new society Marx terms as socialist mode of production. This society is transitional in nature and eventually results into communism, when the workers will renounce their power. So you can see here in socialism, workers' rule will be there. In communism, workers renounce their power and people will be free in real sense. There will be no state, no distribution of power. Marx states, communism deprives no man of the power to appropriate the product of society. All what it does is to deprive him of the power to subjugate the labor of others by means of such appropriation. That means you are not deprived from getting anything from society. You can get everything, but all what it does is deprive you from the power of subjugating the labor of others. You don't have any power to use the labor of others. Everybody is equal. Thus, for Marx, the dynamic model of society is based on the following proposition: the continuous changes in FOP and ROP in response to change in material condition. Yes, because of change in material condition, force of production will change, automatically relations will change. Continuous struggle between two broad classes up till capitalism and abolition of this system in socialism and communism. So you can draw this table and you can show this here. Primitive communism, there are no class. Ancient, two class. Feudal, two class. Capitalism, two class. Socialism, only workers. And communism, there is no class. Continuous struggle between man and nature will finally end in communism. Continuous struggles to resolve the contradictions of the preceding stage will end in communism. Continuous struggle between one's being and social being will end in communism. So one statement: man make their own history, but they do not make it just as they please. They do not make it under circumstances chosen by themselves, but under circumstances directly found, given, transmitted from the past. Okay, so that's about the theory of historical materialism. Any doubts?
Sir, yes, one question, please, sir.
Tell me.
Sir, in ancient mode of production, there is master and slave. In feudal mode of production, there is feudal lords and serfs. In industrial society, there are capitalists and workers. They all have been derived from the previous society, and same people have turned into the same class. Like those who were exploited are being exploited in the next society.
Yes.
Is this because of the consciousness, that is real consciousness and false consciousness?
Yes, it is because of actually the ancient to feudal, the transition is based on false consciousness. That is why they are not able to change their condition. I will discuss this in detail tomorrow. What is this false consciousness? And
no, sir, I was just trying to be sure that what I'm understanding is right.
Yes. And in capitalism, it is based on true consciousness. So they are not going to be exploited in future.
Yes.
Yeah.
Thank you, sir.
Yeah.
Sir, I have a question.
Tell me.
Okay, sir, Marx is concerned about the individual in terms of being and social being, right? Okay, so can we say that Marx has, worked a lot for the society, but Marx also ignored some of the qualities of an individual, like the intelligence, the hard work of an individual?
No, how he ignored such kind of things? You can say Marx ignored, and Marx overemphasized on material factors over the individual meanings and values and those kind of things.
So we know of the capitalists in the present context, okay, who were not the capitalists in the 10 years ago. Like we get the example of Elon Musk, okay, the CEO of Tesla. He was not the capitalist 10 years ago.
No, the
right?
ideology keep on changing. The capitalism, there is a continuous modification, which is when Marx wrote capitalism was very, a dangerous system. But that's not the case now. It is a very friendly system. and even the workers are ready to, even the workers are the owners of the company. For example, if you talk about any company, the workers, especially because of the share market and everything, workers are the owners of the company, and in fact workers want the company to do well, so they are ready to work hard also, because they also hold the share of the company. So the capitalism has changed in different dimensions, and all thanks to Marx only.
So the concern of Marx is what? That the worker or the person who is making the production, okay?
Marx is
they are
concerned
not
about the society as well as individual. Marx is concerned about society, and that you can see in all his writing, and individual, that you can see specifically in his writing of Alienation.
So what Marx is saying, that the worker who's working in the factory is not getting the legitimate title, because he's producing something, okay, and he is not getting the sufficient wages for this, and apart from this, he is not getting for free, but he has to buy it from the market. The same thing he's making. Okay.
Yes.
So the main thing is Marx is concerned about that, about the worker who is not getting the legitimate title. At last, it is the only capitalist, okay, or it is the only company name which is getting branded, like this company made this product, not this like title or the appreciation is not given to the worker. This is the main concern of the Marx.
That will be coming in the theory of alienation, and this is not the theory where we need to discuss about that concern. That is reflected obviously, that we have to discuss under the theory of alienation, not here.
Okay.
Here we are only focused on his idea about society and the evolution. When we discuss about alienation, we can take up this question. Even you may not want to take up this question, because it will be clear with the discussion of alienation. Okay.
Okay, sir. And what is negation of negation?
Negation of negation means, so where you read this?
So in the book, obviously.
Okay, so this is a society that I've discussed. So there will be contradictions. So material condition, because of that there will be a change. For example, ancient mode of production to feudal mode of production. Okay, so there is a change. This is what you call as negation. Why negation? To overcome the problem of the society, new society. So that is actually negation. But here also there is contradiction. So feudal mode of production to capitalist mode of production. So now there is again a change. So I could say that feudal mode of production is the negation of ancient mode of production, and capitalist mode of production is actually the negation of negation. You understood?
Negation of negation. Okay, sir.
Because once there is a negation, again there is a negation. Yeah. Anything else?
No, sir.
Can we stop then?
So in that case, I have some doubt we can ask in the next class, because we have to read this topic once again. Then
Yeah, sure.
Outcome we'll ask in the next class.
Okay. So can we stop here?
Sure, sir.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, bye.
Don't mind.
Bye, sir. Good night.